I'm your host, Angela Crawford. I'm a psychologist, vegan educator, and an author. And I'm passionate about sharing the power of a plant-powered vegan lifestyle for transforming our lives in mind, body, and spirit, and to create a kinder, healthier, more compassionate world. And I hope to inspire and empower you wherever you are on your veg journey. And today I'm so excited to introduce you to our guest. Ella Majors is well known in the vegan and plant-based world. She's a compassion-driven thought leader, podcast host, holistic wellness coach, who founded Sexy Fit Vegan in 2013 to help people all over the world break free from the prison of yo-yo dieting and to build a plant-strong body for life. Ella has a master's degree in social work. She's certified as a personal trainer and eating disorder recovery coach, and she has over 10 years experience transforming lives through her powerful coaching programs. She's a yoga practitioner and former bodybuilding champion who's been recognized as a top trainer globally by bodybuilding.com and Shape Magazine. And Ella serves on the board of Hogs Kisses Farm Sanctuary, and she's based in Miami, where she lives with her beloved rescue dog, Fiona. Oh, welcome. I'm so glad you're here.
Oh, thanks for having me on the show, Angela.
Yeah, and it's just great to get to know you because we share some passions and the whole kind of mind, body, spirit connection and how this lifestyle really supports that and supports animals and the planet too. so
Very much.
so yeah, well, I love to just hear your story, and some people may have heard it who know you, but there are probably some that haven't heard it yet, and so I definitely love hearing how did it happen for you, going in that plant-based and then fully vegan direction. Can you share about that?
Yeah, of course. It all really started when I was 7 years old. I got in the car after school one day. My mom had picked me up to take me to gymnastics practice. I've been an athlete since I was 5 years old. And she asked me how my day was, as parents do. And I told her that we had learned about Daniel Boone in school. And just in case any of your listeners or viewers don't know about Daniel Boone, he's one of our first American folk heroes. He was a wilderness guy. He carried around a shotgun and wore a raccoon hat. And I told my mom, I said, this guy was supposed to be a hero, but he wasn't. He was really mean, Mom. He killed animals and he ate them. And my mom was really honest with me. And she said, well, Ella, we're very fortunate. Nowadays, we get to go to the grocery store to buy our meat. And it was really at that moment that I connected the meat on my plate with the animal that it was.
Mm.
And I was horrified. And right then and there, I told my mom, I said, well, that's it. I'm never doing that again. I'm never eating meat again. And that was it for me. I never ate animals again. So that was when I was 7. And this was back in 1987, to date myself. So way before the internet, way before most people knew what the word vegan was. And somehow I just knew intuitively it was my purpose on earth to be a voice for animals. So I started writing about it in school, with school assignments, homework assignments, and I would talk about how I don't understand. It doesn't make any sense. There are so many other things we can eat. Why do we have to kill something? And I was eating at that time the side dishes off the dinner table, my parents thinking it would be a phase. But I got connected to some local animal rights organizations and got connected to PETA, who started, and Vegan Outreach, who started sending me information. So by the time I turned 15, I really had a better grasp on the dairy and egg industries and animal testing and all of those, all the animal cruelty out there. And so by the time I turned 15, I was fully vegan.
Wow. I mean, that takes a big commitment. You were definitely a forerunner because I think you said so it's 1995 when you became fully vegan,
Yeah,
and so is that going on 30 years?
it is.
It just wasn't really well known at all at that time. I mean, how did your parents handle it, both with you becoming vegetarian and then vegan? How did they respond to that?
Yeah, I give them so much credit. I am very fortunate to have such loving and supportive parents. And I've always been a very strong-willed human. So my mom jokes about how when I was 2, I insisted on putting on my own diapers. I've always had a very strong mind, and when I put my
Mhm.
mind to something, there's no stopping me. So I think, they thought it would be a phase, but it became very clear that I was very vocal about the reasons why I was not eating animals and that I felt so strongly about it. And so they really supported me. And eventually my dad, who they were both kind of ex-hippies. Like my dad was pretty hippie, and I think he was a vegetarian at one point in his life. So it wasn't foreign to him. And he followed suit before too long. He
Ah,
became vegan as well. My younger sister became vegan. My mom became mostly vegan until later in life when she got colon cancer, and that was kind of her last straw to go completely plant-based.
mhm.
So they all kind of followed in suit, and my
Ah,
dad was always enjoyed cooking too. So he had a wok and we would cook tofu, and
mhm,
I also consider myself lucky. So no, there was not much, labeled vegan food in the market.
mhm,
But what that meant for me was that I got to choose whole foods.
mhm,
That was kind of my only option. So we ate beans and vegetables and fruit and tofu, and we got to experiment with those types of food. So as grateful as I am that there are so many options now that don't hurt animals in the market, a lot of them aren't so healthy.
yeah.
So I think it's really, I feel grateful that I grew up on whole foods and that I had parents also that were conscious enough not to just feed me, pasta.
Yeah. So you just sort of naturally landed into a more healthy whole food version of it, and
Right.
which was, I'm sure, it's a good way to learn, this whole lifestyle. And I'm curious, of course, how did things go socially? You again being this forerunner for this compassionate lifestyle, how did others around you socially, kids your age react?
Yeah, no, it's really interesting because I think back and I mean, I was just a natural, like I was a very shy human from day one. I've always been very introverted and really I was very shy. And when it came to being a voice and standing up for animals, because I felt so connected to the suffering, it was like a no-brainer. It was just something, it was who I was, and it was why I was here on earth. And so even in eighth grade in middle school, I was getting in the mail campaigns with little buttons that you put on your shirt, and flyers about L'Oreal, for example, who tested on animals, So that, I'm in eighth grade, like passing out flyers, wearing buttons, I was excited about the possibility of making an impact, about being able to use my voice to do something good for animals. So it didn't really, I think because I came across so excited and positive and hopeful, I wasn't that angry person who was
Mhm.
blaming because literally I was the only vegan I knew. Right? So I I was just really hopeful. And in my young mind, I thought, well, surely if people only knew about what was happening,
Yeah.
then they're gonna just immediately go vegan like me.
Mm.
So I went for, several years with this really hopeful, like, I think it's just that people are not aware. So this role as an activist, in the form of direct activism, leafleting, pamphlet, handing out
Mhm.
pamphlets, even sitting in cages on the side of the road. I mean, bless my parents' hearts. They would drop off their 15-year-old to sit in a cage on the side of the road because I wanted to demonstrate the conditions of farmed and lab animals. So, eventually when you got a lot of hate back, out on the streets. I don't remember getting it in school, but out on the streets, yeah, a lot of angry people back. And I think, eventually that did take its toll.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it sounds like you were really hopeful initially that by sharing information and showing what was happening, people would change. And And it sounds like overall the people, your classmates, responded at least not in a negative way, but when you did more of the activism out in the world, maybe not so positive. And I get the sense, you did become a little discouraged at some point that you didn't get the results, the change in the world that you were hoping to see from your actions. You want to share any more about that?
Yeah, I think, and I have mental health issues in my family as well. So, but at the age of 16, I was diagnosed with depression, with clinical depression, and it started to take its toll, from a mental health standpoint, just having so much rejection and having kind of the weight of the world on my shoulders. Again, this is
Empath, right?
an empath,
Yeah.
and feeling like I'm not making the difference, that I'm putting all this effort out there that I was so hopeful would make a difference, and not getting the results immediately. Yeah, it was a bitter pill for me to
Mhm.
swallow. And I think that definitely weighed on me.
Mm. Was there anything that helped you through that really hard time that you were in?
Um, no, I think it was just a matter of me, and I'm so grateful for that sense of purpose, because giving up was never an option,
Yeah.
right?
Like, I'm
And I
not going to
think
stop being vegan just because I'm going
I'm
through this.
definitely not going to stop being vegan. I'm also not going to stop trying to figure out
Mhm.
the ways I can use myself and my life and my actions to make a difference. It just wasn't necessarily what I had been doing, what that I thought
Mhm.
it would be so easy, just let
Yeah.
people know and they'd go vegan. So it became kind of this lifelong journey for me. How can I make the biggest impact?
Yeah.
And so then that's when I went off to school, got my degree in social work, and headed into the fitness industry after that. And that's when I kind of discovered the next wave of, okay, here's how I'm going to do it now.
Mhm.
Let me become the shining example of the physique that most people want for themselves, because that got me a lot of interest. People would
Yeah.
come up to me, when I had a very strong, muscular, lean physique, and ended up, competing for that same purpose. But people would come up to me and ask me what I was doing. They
Yeah.
wanted to know the secret. And of course, I was thrilled to share with them about how I was doing it, eating exclusively plants. So
Yeah.
again, it got me feeling hopeful that maybe this is it.
Yeah. So did that lead into your business or how did that unfold? Yes.
Eventually, yes. There was a long road to get there, though. It was something that we have to look at the fitness industry too, as we think it's about health, and it's really, things are changing now, but especially back then, it had almost nothing to do with health. It was
Really?
all about how you looked on the outside. It was all
Mm.
about the physical transformation. And what we see on the outside does not always reflect what's on the inside.
Yeah.
And I was surrounded by bodybuilders. And of course, bodybuilders are generally very obsessed with protein, especially animal protein. They're terrified of carbs. And
Mhm.
I was trying to meet the same macro counts, like the same amount of protein, carbs, all of that, as my meat eating bodybuilder friends, but doing it all with plants, because there was really no guidance back then from other vegan bodybuilders. I was one of the only ones.
Yeah. Now there's a lot of them, but it sounds like you were in the beginning phases of this and didn't have role models you could really look to.
Right. Yeah. And so I was doing all this, and that bodybuilding culture is very unhealthy.
Mhm.
Their eating habits, it's often, extreme restriction, right? Denying yourself of almost everything except like chicken and broccoli until Sunday. You go like 6 days of extreme restriction, and then Sunday it's like cheat day.
Mhm.
And they would eat boxes of donuts and an entire pizza. And of course, I wasn't eating donuts or pizza, but I was trying to follow kind of the same pattern of being really restrictive until my willpower ran out. And then it would be binging on things like nuts and cereal. And so I developed in that period of my life an unhealthy relationship with food and my body. I had body dysmorphia. I would look in the mirror and see fat that wasn't there. I was counting all my calories and macros, and like I said, I would do that until my willpower ran out, and then I would, binge on an entire jar of peanut butter one night, that sort of thing. And of course, I didn't want anybody to know that I was struggling, because they would automatically, if people wanted to blame everything on your vegan lifestyle, right? Anything to be like, the vegan, yes, it's because you're vegan. So I would hide all of that for many years.
Yeah. How did you heal? How did you move forward?
Yeah, so I ended up going back to school, and I would see this in my clients too, right? Unhealthy patterns, the yo-yo dieting,
Because it's
them,
so common in our culture. I
yeah,
mean,
for
yeah.
anybody that disordered eating, emotional eating, addictions, food addictions of sugar and animal products and all of that. And I would see people like doing really well, and then once they got the results they were looking for, then they would fall back into their old patterns and habits and return to animal products, for example. And I'm like, frustrated once again,
Yeah.
because what I was doing, again, they were going back the other direction. So I realized the importance of our relationship with food at that point, because
Yeah.
didn't matter what I asked somebody to eat, they would, behind closed doors, they'd be eating something different, and then they'd be ashamed and embarrassed about it, and often wouldn't want to tell you. And then you're like, I think you're not eating what we're talking about you're eating, but they didn't want to, come forward with it. So I ended up going back and getting my master's degree in social work, thinking maybe I would become a therapist. And at that time, also my body, I'd been into Muay Thai really hard. In addition to the strength training, I was beating my body up
What's
with
Muay Thai?
Muay Thai is a form of kickboxing.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it's the
Okay.
science of the 8 limbs,
Oh.
obviously from Thailand. So you use your punches, your kicks, your knees, and your elbows in Muay Thai. It's a pretty brutal martial art, very powerful. And the coach who had taken me under his wing, he didn't believe in sparring gear. So usually you'll see people wearing shin guards.
Mhm.
We didn't wear shin guards. I was like black and blue all over pretty much all the time. And I felt very empowered by it. I had a really hard breakup with a fiance at the time. And then I started this amazing, martial art form. And I learned to really be able to protect myself, and it felt really good. At the same time, it was really beating up my body, and I was doing the cardio to make up for the binges, and I was in that exhausting cycle that so many people find themselves in, trying to burn off the calories you feel guilty about. As much as I loved fitness and working out, I was abusing it, and I was abusing my body at that time. So I did get to that point where I was like, I think I need to do yoga.
Mhm.
Like yoga was calling me, and I wanted nothing to do, like from a mental standpoint, an emotional standpoint. The thought of slowing down and, spending an hour on a mat and breathing, that was so not what I was all about at that point in my life. I was this go-getter. I was a fighter. I was, you know, high energy. Uh, and so it was really, really actually very difficult. And I think it probably saved my life, yoga,
Wow.
because it really was the introduction to me to that inner compassion, bringing compassion back to yourself and your own body. And that combined with the training I got while I was getting my degree in social work, and starting to follow some coaches online that really helped me step into that role of the observer, to start to discover some blind spots and to realize that I had so much compassion for everyone else, and, animals first, people, uh, but very little or none for myself. And it was, I think, that realization that really put me on that path to healing.
Yeah. You've named something really incredibly important, and especially for, I think, vegans and those who are empathic people in general, just that it is so easy, in that case, to extend all this care to others and then forget that you too are an animal, you
Right.
too are a sentient being that, is made with limits and needs. And And so it sounds like you finally learned to honor like self-care in your circle of compassion.
Yes.
And I'm guessing that you also extended that in your work with clients as you move forward. So you
Yeah,
got your
absolutely.
MSW
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah. And that's when I started to feel really strong and confident in who I was and, loving myself more. That's when I felt inspired to create the brand Sexy Fit Vegan.
yeah, awesome. How did that, say more about that? How did that all unfold?
Yeah, it was just that point in Miami was a little behind. I had moved to Miami in 2002. And this was, I think, in 2011 when I started the company. We were a little behind. So up until then, I'd still have gone out to restaurants and the waiter wouldn't even know what the word vegan was still. And so the thought of starting a vegan business or brand didn't seem like it was a great setup for success at that time. Um, but then it just started feeling right. And I was ready to get back to being more forward about the vegan thing. I'd been kind of the plant-based route before that in the fitness business, not to scare people off with the V word. And then so I said, you know what, it's time. And what do I want to do? I want to break the stereotypes that still exist around what it means to be vegan. I want to show people that being vegan is fun and you can be fit and you can be a mainstream person. I still consider myself very mainstream in a lot of ways. I went, hung out with my friends and watched football on Sundays and, went out and did my thing. I guess I was 31 in 2011. Yeah. So still young, still doing the Miami thing. And so I thought, well, sexy sells, sex sells. So
Mhm.
let me do that. And I wanted to show people that being vegan is sexy, that compassion is sexy.
Yes.
And so, yeah, that's where it came from. And I had no idea how I was going to turn it into anything profitable. I just decided it was time to get the word out again in a different way. And so I started a blog and a website. And because there weren't a lot of influencers or leaders in that space yet, it did get a lot of attention kind of just naturally. And I got featured in bodybuilding.com and Shape Magazine and got on some podcasts and got approached by a publishing company who published a book, wanted me to publish a book. So we did.
And what's
I
the
got
book? Do you want to say the
it's
name of
still
it?
out there. We have not done any extra copies. It's called 6 Weeks to Sexy Abs. It's
Oh,
a
cool.
6 week meal plan.
I think
You
I
can
saw it
still
on
get on.
Amazon.
It is on
So,
Amazon. There's a few copies left here and there. I've got some at the house. It's a great 6 week meal plan
yeah.
with over 100 recipes. So yeah, it's a good
Oh,
book. I think Victoria Moran was my first podcast I ever went
oh,
on. And I
that's
remember
awesome.
that podcast because it was like on the phone back then.
Mhm. Yes.
And I think we kept getting disconnected and
Yeah.
it was live. She had it on, a
Yes.
kind of a radio
Yes.
show and it was live and we got disconnected and I was like, oh my gosh, this is
Yeah.
awful. This is it's
Wow. And were you at all shy before, or were you always outgoing? How
oh,
was
I'm
that?
so shy.
Yeah. So was that
I
hard for you to kind of start to be out there?
It was really hard. And I'm not one of those people who like loves to talk about yourself or, write about yourself or
Oh,
any of those things. And here I am creating a brand with me as the face. And
yeah.
it was never really meant to be like about me, but of course everyone took it
Yes.
as it
Yeah.
was me, the sexy fit vegan. And I
Yeah.
that wasn't my intention when I created the brand. I wanted
Yeah.
to show everybody that you
Yeah.
can be a sexy fit vegan, that we're
Yes.
all, sexy fit
Yes,
vegan.
exactly. I totally. And I just resonate with so much. First of all, I'm an introvert by nature. So, I've been a psychologist and previously a psychotherapist and not out there. And, just the passion for veganism has led me to be more out there
Yeah.
and like you, showing how it can be so transformative. It's it doesn't mean there aren't hard parts, like you mentioned about being different and, trying to raise awareness, but it also, I know for me, I felt much more authentically me and true to myself. And it's just brought peace and fulfillment, which led to the book that I wrote called The Vegan Transformation, the same as this YouTube channel. So I've resonated with you as I've listened to you talk over the years, and just thank you for like stepping forward all these years ago, and having the courage to do it.
Yeah, it's just it's why I'm here. And so just
Yeah,
go
you're
with
like your
it.
life purpose, sort of. You feel a sense of deep purpose through this work. And sometimes it sounds like it's evolving how that's expressed, and maybe we'll talk a little bit more about that aspect in a minute. But I did want to ask you, for you, like, yes, there were ups and downs on your journeys, just like anyone's life, but what have been the positives for you, like emotionally and spiritually and probably physically, from choosing a plant-based and vegan lifestyle?
Yeah, I think it's this feeling of alignment that leads to peace and freedom. I think that alignment, peace, and freedom are the three words that come up for me, to be able to align my choices with what's important to me, which
Mm,
is compassion, which is seeing us all individuals as worthy of life, worthy of peace and freedom, and worthy of being able to be ourselves, our authentic selves, whether we're a human being or a turkey.
mhm,
Like, we all have desires, we all want to live, we all want to be happy.
mhm.
Um, and to be able to align my choices the best I can, right? Because we're not perfect. Just being a part of society, I'm in, some things I'm doing or buying, they're supporting cruelty of some sort to some
Mhm.
being somewhere.
Yeah,
So I think if we can do the best we can to make choices that are aligned with doing the most good and the least harm
yeah.
and let go of the rest,
Mhm.
then we can really give ourselves the opportunity to shine our light on the world,
Yeah,
and um and to live with a lot of peace.
yeah. That's beautiful. Yeah, and just so freeing, and like you say, to live that way the best you can. And you've also found, through your path, that eating this way isn't harmful to you. I mean, people have these misconceptions about veganism or it being unhealthy. And as you mentioned, eating the whole food plant-based version of vegan is one of the best things we can do for our body, based on research on heart disease and type 2 diabetes and certain other chronic conditions. Um, maybe you could share a little bit about like the health aspect for you. What has it been like, in terms of eating those kinds of foods that nourish your body, and what do you eat typically? What's your lifestyle like that way? Because that's sometimes the question people are like, well, how do I do this?
Yes. Well, I'm that weirdo who eats salad for breakfast. I've experimented over the years of figuring out different, trying different things, trying fruit for breakfast, trying to have different combinations of foods and more plant protein and less plant protein, and just seeing how my body responds, because I really do believe all our bodies are very unique and they run very differently. So some people do really well on a lower fat, higher carbohydrate diet, especially endurance athletes, for example. Other people do really well with more plant protein and less of the carbohydrates. So I think it really is this process of experimentation, of exploring, and building a relationship with food that allows you to do that. That when I look at my food choices, I'm looking at what's going to nourish my body, what's going to fuel my activities, and what's going to make me feel energized and feel good and light and strong.
Yeah.
And so for me, I've come to this place where, yeah, my first meal of the day is usually a big salad. And my salad has about 30 grams of protein in it.
Mhm.
And I do that in part because I use a nutritional yeast on my salad that has 4 grams of protein per tablespoons. So if I put in there 3 tablespoons or 4 tablespoons of protein, I'm getting just from the nutritional yeast alone, I'm getting 16 grams of protein. That's before I even add in some chickpeas or white beans or whatever it is. And then I'll sprinkle pumpkin seeds on top. And I just say that to say that even if you're somebody who does better on more protein, it is actually really easy
Hmm.
with the right, it takes some guidance and it takes some figuring out at the beginning, but it is really easy to get plenty of protein to
Yeah.
support you. And we don't need as much as absolutely we don't need as much. And if you're looking to gain muscle and you are strength training and that is your goal from a physique standpoint, then yes, you need protein to support that. So for longevity purposes, we need actually very small amount of protein to be healthy and live a really long life. And if you're a fitness person and want to build muscle, we need a little extra protein. So, but it's very easy. So yes, I eat tons of salad, but really, really hearty salads. This salad that I make, it's my Nutrilicious kale and white bean salad. People are addicted to it. I tell you what, my friend Anne, who runs the Hogs and Kisses Farm Sanctuary, she's not really a salad person per se, but she had some goals, and she's like, "All right, I'm gonna try your salad, Ella." She tried the salad, and I have it up on YouTube, so maybe we
Oh,
can
okay. We'll
put
have
a
to
link
check this
on it.
out.
Yeah, she's like, she left me a message a couple days later, and she was like, "Ella." She's like, "What in the world is up with this salad?" She's like, "I think I'm addicted to this salad. What is going on? What is in the salad that is so addictive?" I'm like, "Oh, if you're going to be addicted to something, salad is not a bad thing to be addicted
Yes.
to."
Well, I'm gonna definitely look this up, and
Yes.
I'll try to share the link in the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
description.
Yeah. It's really easy. It takes 10 minutes. I'm somebody who I don't like to spend a lot of time in the kitchen. And there's so many meals you can throw together in 10 minutes or less. And I call it the build a meal method. It's more about keeping your staples stocked. It's the KISS method, KYSS, keep your staples stocked. So you
Oh,
have
I
your
love that.
go-tos of kind of what you throw together to make a delicious, hearty meal that makes you feel good and energized and supports your goals. And then you just keep your staples stocked and you can keep, and so you'll always have things to throw together. And if once a month you can really stock up on anything that's canned or anything that'll keep for a while, you stock up with those, and then you can just run into the store once or twice a week and get your fresh produce and all of that to make it easy. So there are lots of little shortcuts to make eating whole food, plant-based, easy and quick.
Yeah, no, that makes it seem very doable. In your work, when people, maybe struggle either whether it be emotionally with eating healthier or when they struggle maybe socially with handling social situations where they're the only ones eating a certain way, how do you help people or, what would you say to support people that are struggling with some of those kinds of issues? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think, a lot of the times especially when you're newer to the vegan world, we want to like get into the role of apologizing or
Mm.
feeling badly about inconveniencing others or making it difficult. So we go into that mode of, "Oh, I'm so sorry," like to the server or to our
Mhm.
friends. "Oh, I'm so sorry to be such a pain in the butt." And I think when we put ourselves in that place, people around us will actually encourage them to think of it as being a pain in the butt.
Mhm.
When really what our choices are really inspiring. Like what we're doing and what we're sharing with others as we're doing it could actually save somebody's life.
Yeah.
Not to mention the animals' lives, but even the very people that we love and that we're going out to dinner with. And a lot of times I'll go out to dinner maybe at a place that doesn't really have anything on the menu. And especially if it's a nicer restaurant, and I will ask the server, "Is there anything the chef might be able to do?" And a lot of the time, the chefs are really excited
Yeah.
to be able to get creative because they're so bored of, they're chefs, that's their profession, and yet they're doing the same thing night
Mhm.
after night. And for them to have an opportunity to get creative and do something different. And a lot of times that meal will come out and everyone at the table will be like, "I didn't see that on the menu. That looks amazing." And so I think to let any guilt or anything that notice it, let it go. And if you can be really positive and excited about what you're doing, what you're ordering, the opportunity it's giving the people that you're with, and
Mhm.
we can come forward in that really positive way, we end up inspiring people and making a positive impact in that way. And it's a form of activism right there on its own.
Yeah, no, that's a great mindset, that we're being a role model in a positive way for those around us and, sort of a leader in a movement towards, not only greater compassion for all beings, but also for our own health and well-being. Obviously the standard American diet it's become more and more unhealthy, it seems, over time. And so you're showing what's possible, so
Absolutely.
yeah. And I think, I'm a more recent vegan than you. Like, I think it gets easier too as you just develop new skills. You learn to speak up and ahead of time to a host and say, hey, I'm eating this way, and I'm happy to bring something. You learn different ways to handle it that maybe you never needed to do before, but now because you're committed to this, whether for health or other reasons, you're willing to speak up.
Absolutely. I think yeah, you hit the nail on the head there.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'd love to hear more about your current work and, just anything that people might want to know about what you're doing work-wise, what you offer. And then I also know you might have some like offerings coming up in the near future. So I'd love to hear just all about that if you want to share.
Sure. Yeah. We've actually just got what we're calling the emergency cravings kit
Oh, wow.
that we've created that's absolutely free, that I want to invite everybody to download. Whether that's it really helps you understand the different reasons why we eat, because it's certainly not always just because our physical need, right, for food,
Mhm.
our true hunger. We've got the emotional reasons, comfort or numbing. We've got the food addictions, actual physical addictions to ingredients, especially like cheese and sugar. And then we've got programs, subconscious programs for food being a reward or a treat, right? That we've developed when we were young a lot of the times. So understanding those reasons and then having a framework, which is a 5-step, it's called the peace process, for what to do when those cravings come up that are not about true hunger, not about fueling or nourishing your body, and an actual framework around here's the steps that you can take to help start to crush those cravings, to really help you overcome them. And then from there, if you sign up for that, then we've got a challenge coming up that's going to be a deeper dive into that framework, that understanding, and to help you have some really solid actionable things that you can do over this course of 4 days with a bunch of support and other people along the way. That's coming up on December 3rd.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah,
And
and
how do
that'll
people sign up for it? Will there be a link on your website?
Yes, there'll be a link on my website. We've got the start.sexyfitvegan.com is the cravings kit. That's
Okay.
the free kit that you'll be able to download. And then challenge.sexyfitvegan.com is where you'll be able to sign up for that challenge, which is also a free challenge. There's also an upgrade available, so you can actually get on the hot seat and get some coaching in there if you'd like.
Oh,
Uh,
awesome.
yeah, and then we'll be launching a program for emotional eaters in January.
Yeah. So really all the tools to eat in a way that nourishes you, lets you be more fit, and yet also acknowledges some of the challenges that we face, whether it's our, emotional eating and, also just our culture has created a diet that really can make us have unhealthy eating patterns just because, the salt, fat, sugar, animal products, all that can be so addictive for people.
Yeah, yep.
So,
And it's hard to know how to what to do about that, because you can
yeah.
know logically that this food
Mhm.
is not going to serve me, and then what happens when it comes down to it? That craving feels so strong that you feel a
Yeah.
little powerless over it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it sounds amazing. Well, I'm excited. It sounds like a great offering. So we'll share links in the description. Um, and also just I guess anything else that you want to share about your work or any other things that you want to share? Just, I mean, you've been doing this work for quite a while, helping, predominantly women, I'm assuming, on their
Yeah,
kind of
mostly
fitness and
women. Mostly.
plant-based journeys. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think, really going down that path of being open to discovering our own blind spots. That I think that's what it's all about. I always talk to clients about approaching ourselves with curiosity and compassion, and then expanding that to say, I approach myself and the world with curiosity and compassion. And when we can do that, we really open ourselves up to discovering the reasons why we may be stuck in certain places, and to give us ourselves permission to really own our worth,
Yeah.
that we're all worthy of being here. We're all worthy of being healthy and happy, and having connection with other people. Um and so to really step into that role more often of the observer, to observe your thoughts and your emotions and your actions with curiosity and compassion. And from there, that kind of sets this foundation to be able to change, to transform. It's
Yeah.
like that prerequisite I always tell people, like loving your body and accepting your body exactly as it is right now is a prerequisite for transforming it. Right, which
Yeah.
sounds counterintuitive, but by looking in the mirror and seeing immediately all the things that you dislike about your body and putting energy into that, it really sets us up to actually sabotage our efforts, to
Yeah.
get healthier.
Yeah, you're right. It does seem on the surface counterintuitive, and yet it's so true what you're saying, that it's, self-love is sort of the foundation for, lasting and healthy change. And it's interesting too, as you're eating plants, it does nourish not only our body, but our nervous system and our brain too. And so I think it can help over time in ways that maybe we wouldn't even have anticipated to have a clearer mindset. And
1,000%. And just
yeah,
also, something very actionable to do is to really connect with your food that
mm,
you're eating, right?
like
And
be mindful as you're
yeah,
eating.
absolutely. And mindful eating, to starting with, like, how did this food get here?
Yeah.
Where did this come from? Who put in the work, or who had to die,
Mhm.
to get this meal to my plate. And then being able to look and see, hopefully if it's plant foods, you're seeing brilliant colors and
Mhm.
the beauty of the nutrients that are about to nourish you. What's this food going to
Yeah.
do for my body? This eating here is an act of compassion in and of itself. It's an act of self-care. And then to chew each bite thoroughly to a paste before you swallow, helping with your digestion and to also slow you down. The mindful eating is quite key, and we definitely have that as a component of the challenge that we have coming up.
Oh, well, that's beautiful. Yeah, the mindfulness, I think, is an important reminder wherever we're at on our journey. I know recently I tried to just be more mindful of, before, during, and after eating, and just slowing it down. And it's just like, wow, sometimes, you just can start rushing through your food and not even taste it. So on so many
Absolutely.
levels, being mindful of all that you described can, transform our relationship with food in a lot of ways. So, yeah. Well, are there any final thoughts you'd want to share, like whether it be with those that are kind of plant veg curious, or those already on the journey, but maybe struggling with some of the things you've talked about? Any final thoughts or words?
I would just say, love wins. If we can come
Mm,
from a place of love,
mm.
as opposed to fear, hate, things will work out. So just connect with that love, and approach yourself in the world with curiosity and compassion.
I love that. And I actually needed to hear that because sometimes, again, like you, an empath, I feel things in the world, and I need that reminder on a regular basis. Love
Right.
wins.
We all do. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being on here. We'll wrap up this the program for now, but it was just, it's just a blessing to get to know you a little bit here and to share your story, and excited for also the the offering with the cravings. What's it called again? The cravings
The
toolkit.
emergency cravings kit. Yeah.
Emergency cravings kit. Awesome. And the challenge, the mindful eating challenge. So both of those sound really awesome. So thank you so much. And so much appreciation. And thank you everyone for, viewing or listening. I hope if you enjoyed this content, you'll subscribe and you'll also share it with others who might benefit. And until the next time, just have a great rest of the day.